Hello everyone, Algelter the SideQuest Gamer here, and Happy New Year! Sorry I've been late with this video, I've been sick and there's been a tragedy recently. Anyways, pretty soon this channel will have a few minor changes, and no, it's not just the haircut. Last year, I promised to review the most requested video game review I got in the comments section. So, without further ado, today I'm going to review the cult classic PlayStation and PC game, Oddworld Abe's Oddysee. Although I'll be reviewing the PlayStation version, but there's really no difference with the PC version. So, let's roll the footage and see if this cult classic is worthy of its status.
Like I said, I'm playing the PlayStation version of Oddworld Abe's Oddysee, even though there is a PC version released for it. With the exception of a few minor graphical differences, they're all pretty much identical. Although I heard the Steam version was edited to take out the completion bonus due to some law dispute with Oddworld inhabitants and the new owner and distributor, EA. Or that's just a rumor. I hope it's just a rumor, because rescuing all 99 Mudokons is no easy task. Oddworld Abe's Oddysee was developed by Oddworld inhabitants using the Alive engine, which you can probably tell from the footage gave you a pre-rendered 3D graphics as well as fluid character animations. Interestingly enough, the game began development as early as 1995, and from what I hear, it underwent so many changes, including title changes, which went from just Epic to Soulstorm until it eventually was named Oddworld Abe's Oddysee. But the game was finally released in 1997, being published by the now out-of-business GT Interactive. The game was under the direction of Lorne Lanning, and he wanted to make a game that was not only cinematic, but also had a little man versus big corporation message. Lanning hated the big corporation since he felt it hurt the middle-class average Joe, but obviously he couldn't tell that to the executives of GT Interactive.
However, with the fallout with Oddworld inhabitants and their new owners, EA, Lanning is not too far from the truth. I mean, out of the planned quintology, only 2 of the 5 planned games were made.
Funny thing is that, during the development, one of the executives hated the game and tried to get it shut down by giving footage of it to his boss, but the boss actually loved it so much he fired the executive and gave the developers even more funding. Now, keep in mind that back then, video game developers were viewed as nothing more than toy makers rather than artists, so this kind of backstabbing was quite common back then. Lanning stated himself that they were happy to make a living, but they wouldn't go out bragging about it to the public. So anyways, the game stars the character known as Abe, and he's part of a race of slaves known as the Mudokons. He works in a factory on Rupture Farms, and like many employees for a big corporation, they like their job, until the corporation they're working for is inadvertently hurting them in some way.
You know, the more I think about it, Oddworld Abe's Oddysee is more of a statement on America's corporations building factories overseas at the expense of thousands of jobs for Americans, while the people working in these factories, usually in Taiwan or China, they would be lucky to make $1 a day, and they have no safety conditions because a union is of legend over there. I mean, if that's the case, then Lanning makes a very valid point.
So even though he's a slave, Abe was in fact Employee of the Year at Rupture Farms, and he was quite fine and dandy until he overheard a business meeting where the master business race of Oddworld, known as the Gluckons, are all worried about Rupture Farms going out of business since the paramites and other creatures are becoming scarce. But the main antagonist of the game, known as Mulak, who's the boss Gluckon, he has a plan, and it was to harvest the meat out of their labor force, the Mudokons, to make something new and tasty. Abe, being terrified at this revelation, decides to run away while being chased by the Gestapo-esque security forces known as Sligs, and those enemies are the ones you're going to have the most trouble with in the game. I mean, saying that they're trigger-happy is the biggest understatement. Not to mention, they're abusive to the Meducan workforce. On more than one occasion when rescuing Meducans, the Sligs walk by the working Meducans minding their own business and then beats them out of spite. So anyways, the game has you in a screen-by-screen cinematic platformer where your goal is to escape, and you have the option to rescue fellow Meducans who are endangered of being processed into meat. You can of course just leave them to die, but at least save as many as you can. I mean, if you don't save at least 50 Meducans, you'll get the bad ending, which is actually pretty hilarious in a dark, twisted way. I won't spoil it for you, but I think you'd prefer to get the good ending. You can issue out commands to Meducans using GameSpeak, which you hold the L1 button and press a triangle to get their attention, square to make them follow, and X to make them wait. When you're near a bird portal with the Meducans on screen and the coast is clear, hold L1 and R1 at the same time to open the bird portal so the Meducans can escape into it and escape the factory and, of course, their dangerous fate. You can also hold the L1 and R1 button to possess enemies like Sligs and use them to shoot their comrades and clear a path.
Trust me, they got what's coming to them.
There are many enemies in the game, like Scrabs and Paramites, that will definitely give you a hard time also in addition to the Sligs, especially in the secret areas. And yes, if you want to save all 99 Meducans, they're well hidden, and I mean well hidden, like the bonus areas in the first Donkey Kong Country. I had to look up a Let's Play to find them all, and they're in the weirdest spots in the game. I'm not even kidding. Sometimes when you stumble into one, you'll be either like, how did I get here, or why didn't I figure this out sooner?
If you want to find them all, be sure to check out Villager Central's Let's Play of Oddworld Abe's Oddysee. He knows every secret area, and although the Let's Play is incomplete, it will be enough for you to complete the game with a good ending.
Now, beating the secret areas are important for completing the game. They hold the most Meducans in the game, and the thing about Oddworld Abe's Oddysee is that for some areas, backtracking is difficult or impossible, especially if you escape Rupture Farms. The Meducans you didn't save will be killed off. So if you go back later in them, it's too late. They're dead. But don't worry, in Rupture Farms, the game usually tells you how many you have to save in. There's signs and such that show you how many Meducans escaped, and how many are remaining in the game total. The game can be challenging and even frustrating at times, but it's not too bad when you get used to it. The game never feels cheap except in certain secret areas, but most of the time when you died, it was on your terms and not the game's. But with infinite lives, you'll make it through just fine. The only major complaint I have about this game is that checkpoint system. I mean, some of the checkpoints are not the most strategically placed. There was a time when I went through the first secret area of the stockyards getting chased by a Scrab while leading two Meducans one at a time to a bird portal, only to finally escape, but then I slipped up and died and had to do the whole thing all over again. And sometimes when you escape, but then get killed off after you've beat the area, and you didn't reach the checkpoint in time, you'll have to do that all over again. It can get really annoying. Another minor grievance I have with the game is that you can only lead a Meducan one at a time, but luckily this issue is remedied in the sequel/expansion Oddworld Abe's Exodus. I mean, it's not really a grievance, but more of an inconvenience, especially for the stockyard secret areas. But other than that, this game is actually near perfection. I don't usually say it, but it is a near perfect game. But did it age well? It depends on your viewpoint. The game looks good graphically speaking, but like Donkey Kong Country and Final Fantasy VII, the pre-rendered backgrounds are dated. I mean, they were really realistic and all back in the day, but with an HD TV's display, the game loses its realism that it once had, which is pretty sad with the advancements in technology and all. It's not uncommon for that to happen, especially for games that strive to be as realistic as possible. I mean, the reason why Super Mario World aged very well is because it was always cartoony, and therefore it would last forever like a Disney movie. However, the atmosphere did not change, and the FMV cutscenes still hold up very well. You got the same sense of terror and desperation as much as the kid who played it back in 1997. The atmosphere is assisted by the unique soundtrack that actually feels like the environment is making it. I mean, listen to this. Now, you'll actually have to play the game while listening to this, but trust me, the music helps the atmosphere immerse you into the game. Trust me. So, in terms of age, I'll say that it aged like wine. The game you can tell is from 1997, but with the rise of video games or art movement, the game's cult has only gotten much larger. I mean, this game is such a cult classic that there's a new developer known as Just Add Water who's trying to finish the quintology that Lanning started. They updated Munch's Oddysee and Stranger's Wrath in HD, as well as remade Abe's Oddysee from the ground up, known as Oddworld New and Tasty. I recommend checking that game out too, if you don't mind the problem with the joystick controls. So, overall, I would give Oddworld Abe's Oddysee my rating of a 96 out of 100. After the success of this game, 3 more series entries were made: Abe's Exodus, Munch's Oddysee, and Stranger's Wrath.
I will review Oddworld Abe's Exodus at some point, even though it's not part of the quintology, but it is said to be the best in the series. But that's for another day. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you're new here, and remember to stay awesome.